The Newfane Selectboard regular meeting. It's Monday, September 18th. At the table is myself, Angela Sanborn, Katie Johnson-Applin. By phone is Mike Fitzpatrick, and online is Ann Gala. Good evening, welcome everyone. Has this meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move right to the approval of the minutes of the September 5th special meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. A second? You weren't here. I'll second. I'll second. Any discussion? Oh, we can't approve them until Jeff is here. So we will table those until the next time. And that includes the BLC meeting because we can't. So we'll just table the minutes till the next meeting when we have everyone here. And moving right along, we'll go to the road foreman's report. Good evening, Jay.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. So the pavement project on South Watershed should be starting next Monday. It'll go on for, I think, 3 days next week. Well, if things go as planned, 3 days next week, and then they'll hopefully be paving the week after. Nothing new on the Depot Road box culvert, nothing new on the sand salt shed. The new generators installed it. The new generator install was completed this past week. I haven't heard from anyone in the emergency watershed program yet. And the mowing tractor should be delivered on Wednesday. We are waiting for DMI to finish the pavement patching on Graham's Hill, the drain in Williamsville, and the ditch line on Radway Hill. And we are still in search of a trailer to move the excavator.
And have you heard about any more paving on Grimes Road? I see the patching, but do you have an idea of when they're gonna?
No, they called, every time it rains, it pushes them back. They called last Friday, I think, and said they would schedule it just as quick as they could.
Okay. Anything further? Is there a motion to approve the road foreman and commissioner's report? I make a motion. Awesome. Thank you, Mike and Katie. Any discussion?
I just wondered in terms of the emergency, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the whole thing.
Program?
Yes.
The watershed. Yep.
Exactly, thank you both. We don't have any idea when they might get back to us, do we?
I haven't heard anything. I did reach out to the V-Trans person that's between Federal Highway and us, and I didn't hear back from her. So, but nothing from the NCRS, NRCS, whatever. Yep.
Would
So
it be appropriate to ask Juanetta to call them and confirm that they received our application and ask for a date when they might be making decisions, just so we have some idea?
Sure.
Juanetta, could you add that to your list to call them and ask those two questions?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further on the road foreman and commissioner's report? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. 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 Ayes have it. Thank you, and please also let the crew know you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good evening, Juanetta. Time for the administrative assistance report.
Thank you. Steve Levine has submitted 2 names for appointment to the Williamsville Hall Committee. They are both from Williamsville. Evan Vines and Austin Rice. Would you consider making a motion for an appointment this evening? Sullivan Powers spent a day and a half here conducting the audit for the town. It appears things went very well. Their information will be available in the town report. Town Fair 2023 is September 26th in Burlington, and Katie Johnson-Applin is registered to attend. Is there anyone else that would like to be registered?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat what that was?
The town fair in Burlington is September 26th.
Oh, is that the VLCT or different?
No, it's the BLCT Town
Oh,
Fair. Yeah,
okay.
it's
Got it.
26th and 27th. I'm sorry, Katie corrected me. And then the zoning administrator is up for reappointment. Would you consider reappointing him for another 3 years?
Is that Merle?
Yes,
Rick Beard?
it is still Merle, yes.
I'll make a motion.
We'll get to that in just a second. We need to make a motion to approve the administrative assistant's report.
I make a motion.
Second,
Second.
we have Katie and Mike. Thank you for jumping into Ann. Thank you, Katie and Mike. Now we'll discuss. Number one, Steve Levine submitted 2 names, Evan Beans and Austin Rice. Is there a motion to make an appointment for them to join the Williamsville Hall Committee?
I make such a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it. And you will let Steve know?
I will.
Thank you. That's good that Sullivan and Powers were here and everything is going well. Is there anyone interested in going to the town fair with Katie on September 26th? I am not available.
I'm not available either.
You'll report back to us?
Yes, I will add for the conference Juanetta and I went to, rather than presenting on that and then presenting on this separately,
Do it all
I'll
together.
just present at the next meeting for all of the above.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm excited. And, yeah, I've already booked a hotel room and we're good to go, so I'm excited.
Thank you for going. And number 4, zoning administrator is willing to do another 3-year term. Is there a motion to appoint Merle Tessier?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And the ayes have it. Congratulations. We don't need to send you a letter. Shall we call you tomorrow?
You have to wake up now, huh?
Is there anything further for the administrative assistant's report?
Okay. Per your request, I responded to the Bill Morse.
1 second.
No.
We're almost to you. We have to vote on the report. Is there all those in favor of approving the report? No, we already did that. We're just voting to approve it. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you, Juanetta.
Now,
All right, now we're to the
Now.
committee reports. The floor is yours, Merle.
wonderful. And it's nice too.
It's nice to have you here.
I responded to the select board on the Morse situation. Not much else I can say in that case. I have a personal feeling because of some of the things that were in that letter, it would be a good thing if the select board somehow showed some support for the staff and the volunteer board members. You know, he kind of did a broad brush, kind of criticizing everybody for who knows what. No, in my case, I get paid to take it, so I don't worry about it. But you're trying to get volunteers to work on different committees, and something like this, you know, kind of discourages people.
Right.
So that's item 1.
May I ask a question? You said you sent a report to the board about the Morse issue?
Yes, there's a letter in here that was written today.
Oh, could someone send me a copy?
I will text you on right now.
Okay.
The letter she's asking for was included in the packet.
This one?
This one here was not included in the packet.
Oh, the Manitoba letter.
Mhm.
I don't have all of those letters.
Two.
Okay,
Okay, item 2, a site visit to the higher ground burial. I did a site visit on September 14th, Thursday, responding to a concerned citizen complaint. I met with Michael Mayer. I was there. Jay Wilson came along. I asked him to come, so I figured he has a little more expertise. I'm a bean counter, not a dirt mover. And John Walker, he's a neighbor, the contractor and the contractor's son. I had invited Gordon Burstall, but he had business out of state that day. So we approached, we started the conversation with Mr. Mayor, and we had noted that there'd been a change to the design right at the entrance. And Mr. Mayor and his contractor indicated that they needed to make a change. It was raining hard and it was showing a deficiency in the original plan. And we had a little bit of a confrontational meeting. And basically what it came down to is I said, you can make changes, but you have to get permission from the Act 250 people. And I said, did you? He says, yes, I talked to him on the phone. I said, who did you talk to? It took a few rounds of questions before I got a name. Chris Kinnick, and he's the compliance officer. And then I made a point to him. I said, do you have it in writing? And it took a couple of rounds to get an answer on that. Finally, I was just a little bit insistent. I said, I want an answer, yes or no. I don't need all this excess verb. And finally said no. Well, I said, when it comes to the finish of this project, there's no way I'm going to be able to sign off on it without some kind of verification that there was an approved change made. So that's basically as far as the technical stuff, except I did check the erosion control, and the plastic things on the lower side were in place, and the upper side he had put hay down. And I wasn't sure if that was an accepted method. So when I got back to the office, I talked to Chris up at Act 250, and he indicated, yes, that is acceptable.
okay.
So we took care of the erosion. The dump truck, 10-wheel dump truck, blocked the driveway, so we didn't go any further up. They had a load of tree stumps. And if you read the requirements by Act 250, they're supposed to be disposed of on the site, except you can go to an approved stump disposal site. And I'm assuming at this point that that's where they were going. I suppose there should be some kind of receipt from the dump site indicating that they received a truckload of stumps. So I'll check that in a future visit. And let's see, what else? There was another change in the drainage that was supposed to come further uphill and go further down the road. But the contractor had indicated that it wasn't going to work too well. So they made that change, but again, we didn't have any written confirmation from Act 250. So I impressed upon Mr. Mayor that, you know, I won't be able to okay it unless I have documentation. And that seemed to be a touch point. And I hope he's gotten the message. And also, if we keep seeing variances from what's required, I may issue a stop work order.
Because
I do
there's the
have that
permit that was
authority.
granted and then also the rules from the
Yeah,
environmental.
it's a pretty extreme measure, but if it's necessary, I'll do it. 'Cause, you gotta learn to conform to the rules. So when I got back, I did talk to Chris at Act 250, had a nice long conversation. And basically, I made arrangements with him that would do a joint site visit at some point in the future. He had come down once before, but there was nobody around after he wavered his way up Sunset Road. And that'll probably be very constructive. So that's in the future. I let Mr. Mayor know that I will be doing multiple site visits. So the whole idea here is let's keep his feet to the fire. That's it.
And we received a letter today from Michael Mayer, from the select board. Would you like to address that? Or would you like me to read it, or
I read it.
I'm asking you?
You're asking me.
Yes,
No, I'd like to present it. Thank you,
yes.
Madam Chairman. Yeah, given the site visit that Merle talked about, I thought it would be important to, well, I'll just read directly from the letter. This update aims to clarify roles and responsibilities in moving the project forward by summarizing key points, and there are 5 points. Number 1, a deficiency in the approved site plan shows one 20-foot by 15-inch culvert running underneath the driveway 10 feet from Sunset Lake Road and parallel to it. That location could not possibly serve town road drainage appropriately, which requires the ditch to run directly beside the road. Nor does the location shown provide adequate slope drainage from above the driveway. 2, on-site adaptive measures were taken to correct the deficiency that both Jay Wilson and Act 250 Compliance and Enforcement Officer Chris Kinnick agree were appropriate design decisions. However, corrective action was taken without prior approval to a change in the approved site plan, so the compliance officer and District 2 Coordinator Stephanie Guile have indicated they require an amended plan showing the necessary changes. 3, last Thursday's site inspection by Jay and Merle and nearly daily phone and email communications with the compliance officer that include photos indicate that the project is moving forward appropriately, with the understanding that going forward, other suitable changes from the existing site plan would need approval from Act 250 in advance, not after the fact, and that such changes would be shown on an amended site plan. 4, recurrent attempts to reach the site plan's author, engineer Ron Bell, have been unsuccessful, so we're reaching out to another engineer to come on site, amend the existing site plan to correct deficiency, and ensure that the plan as amended meets Act 250 permit conditions and of course local requirements as per Jay's review. And finally, close communication with Act 250 that is ongoing ensures that when we're done, they will be positioned to document compliance with the approved site plan as amended. This documentation, in addition to Jay's approval of town requirements being met, is what Merle has requested so that he may issue the use permit as ordered in the stipulation agreement issued by Act 250. We hope this is helpful in clarifying what's needed to keep the project on track. Thank you.
Do you have a copy of the amended plan as noted in number 2?
No, because we're still trying to find an engineer to replace Ron Bell, who is missing in action. We think he's sick, but he's not responding to anybody's calls. So what we need to do is get a new engineer in to check out the site, review the stipulation agreement, review the existing plan, and review the changes that we're talking about. He's the one that does the amended plan.
So everything has stopped until you find a new engineer?
No. Chris Kinnick says, no, keep going with the project. You made the right decision, but unfortunately you didn't get prior approval. So that's the problem. And Jay, maybe you could speak if you feel like it about the decision itself, which, well, you could share how you perceive whether or not it was the right decision or the right design decision.
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
The culvert apparently in the plans, which I haven't seen, didn't have the culvert along the town road, which is required in our access permit. So that had to be put in on the edge of the road. So that's what we were concerned. We're worried about that first 20 feet. And after that, it becomes Act 250, but ours is from the road in 20 feet is where we have to worry about.
And your feeling when you went up there, how is everything going?
When they're finished hauling in there, they're supposed to meet the requirement of going in level off the road, and the culvert looked good on the road. And as long as they do what they say they're going to do, the town will, the road will be fine.
Okay.
What goes on after that, that's beyond me. But the beginning of it, as long as they do as they say they're going to do, it should be fine.
The confusion here in terms of who's accountable for what, we have to go by the amended site plan. Both the contractor and I have apologized to Act 250 on numerous occasions for not having gotten prior approval, but you remember the weather conditions of the last couple of weeks, and with the torrential rain, not putting in a culvert as appropriate would have flooded out the town road, and nobody would have been happy with that. So in that respect, everybody says, you did what you had to do. Unfortunately, you did not get prior approval. Going forward, you have to get prior approval. We say absolutely. And as far as what has happened in the past, you need an amended plan. We like the changes you've made. They've seen the pictures, we've talked about it, they've gotten the narrative. That becomes a site plan that they will approve administratively. But going forward, we need to make sure that we get approval prior, and we understand that now. We thought the on-site decision adaptive measures were okay, but we were wrong.
Okay. May I ask which engineers you've reached out to thus far to try to get something?
My excavator knows somebody, and I don't know who. I'm not reaching out to him. He does because he has the personal relationship. The guy is more likely to do something on an immediate basis because I don't have a relationship with any engineer.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm the abutting property owner, John Walker. I was in a
I was just
meeting.
gonna ask you and Gordon if you'd like to speak.
Okay, and I would like to ask Michael if they had approved the additional culvert he had put in rather than the ditching down the left-hand side, which in its original design would have brought the water on the other side of his driveway, the left-hand side, down into his culvert and into the town ditch. As it stands now, there's been an additional culvert which has been added, which brings all the water from the left-hand side over to the right-hand side. It doesn't have the benefit of going through his culvert, but there's twice as much water coming right at my property. And I would like to ask Michael if 250 has addressed that design change, which isn't in the site plan.
May I respond?
Yes.
Number one, there's a three-step process that we went through to correct the deficiency. The first was what Jay said, to put the 18-inch culvert, which is the standard for the road culverts these days, along Sunset Lake Road. Number two, to push the originally approved culvert from 10 feet up to further up to adequately address drainage below the road to an area which has been carved out to receive the drainage. There is a drainage ditch and a drainage catchment area. Now, the idea that any water would escape that onto John's property, we've had a lot of rain and none of that has happened, nor will it ever happen, because of all of the stone that has been placed in that drainage ditch. The original plan was to have that culvert 10 feet up go down the bank into the road. There was no culvert draining directly to the ditch. It was a dysfunctional plan, and it's too bad. I mean, I saw that it wasn't adequate, but I also figured that things like that would get taken care of once you got into the project. I'd never done an Act 250 project before, and I didn't know how you got to stick by the rules. Again, mea culpa, we didn't do it. We didn't get the permissions we should have. On the other hand, it was the right decision. And the compliance officer believes that it was the right decision as he's seen it, as we've just talked about it. He said, this is fine, get it in the amended site plan, and we'll proceed. I don't think there's anything more to say about what the right engineering of that would have been.
John?
I don't think that the question was answered. I asked him if 250 had okayed the addition of a second culvert, and I have the map here, and there's only one culvert on this particular map. Now there's another one installed as well, and I'm sure that Michael, with the advice of his contractor, thought that they were doing the best thing, but I think 250 has to sign on to it. And my question was, have they agreed that that's the proper course to take with the drainage?
My response to that was that that looked right to them, and when they see the site plan, they will amend it.
Did they site visit to see that it was what it would look like, or is this just a telephone?
I have sent photographs, I've been in daily communication, and they've been very appreciative of all the detail I've been giving them, and they say it looks like you did the right thing. That's what I've gotten, and what I said here is, at the end of the day, all of these decisions are in Act 250's hands, and if they provide documentation that we have done it right, then Merle has what he needs to be able to say, here is the permit, which under the
But it
stipulation.
seems backwards if you're not following the plan and you're not getting approval first. It seems backwards.
Well, that's why we're getting the amended plan. And yes, they're going to approve the amended plan. But it's you can say it's backwards, but when you have a situation. Jay, do you want to speak to this? I mean, you were in on that conversation and you knew what kind of drains we had and you knew what kind of impact it would have had on the road if we didn't do what we did.
To be quite honest, I don't recall exactly what it looked before you started. I do know the culvert in 10 feet from the road wasn't be acceptable for the town. So that had to be changed. What happened after that, I don't know what's correct and not up there, but it does. I haven't seen it in heavy rain as to where the water from the upper culvert's going yet. If we do get another downpour, maybe we could take a look at that and just see what that does. But the road culvert was definitely a necessary thing. It had to be put in alongside the road to keep the water running along the ditch.
The upper culvert, I've been there every time it's rained, before, after, and during, and I guarantee you, I will say whatever you need to say, that water is not exceeding the limits of the catchment area and of the drainage ditch that was created to receive that water.
John?
What are the limits of the captive area you just spoke about? Before it was draining one culvert, one ditch, now it has two. So with my line, you've got two ditches draining into an area designed for one. How does it not exceed the design? And was there a design to begin with?
I will simply say the design decisions that were made, we stand behind, and the compliance officer says, sounds to me like you did the right thing. Keep me informed and keep going. Anytime you make any new changes or you feel you need to make a change, get my approval first. I said, absolutely. So you keep asking questions, and all I'm saying is this is an Act 250 decision, and Act 250 is talking about providing the documentation they need.
Yes, Mike Fitzpatrick would like to say something.
Yeah, speaking on the John Walker's behalf, I do believe, if the compliance officer telling us what's right and all that, but if you've added other culverts to it, I know as far as the town goes, we don't have no right to put runoffs off of, unless it's original runoff on other people's land where the water's gonna run down and onto their property. Now, if it's approved for one culvert by Act 250, and now you've added something up where it's changing the water courses or whatever else, I don't know how far John's land is from this or nothing, but, I mean, obviously John must have part of the Act 250. And all this being a budding landowner.
Yes.
I think before any of the culverts were added and changed, that's the whole thing that, for compliance with the Act 250, you'd have been notified too. And any of the other budding landowners that would have to change, it's not just the amendment, these guys all have to be notified. And like I said, I haven't seen it, but I know that you just start adding up to change the whole water course on other people's land without permission from them guys.
It is a physical impossibility for water to be
Can we
draining.
let Mike finish first?
I thought you had paused.
No. We'll
I
let-
mean, you're saying, like John said, that all the water is flowing down one side of the road, now it's cutting over to the other side, in a couple different places. I mean, I would think that there might be more than just installing a culvert. You might have to look at stormwater and all this other thing of where you're gonna put stormwater ponds and people put other people's land. I know I've gone through a lot of different things with Act 250. It's not guaranteed to get screwed up, but I know when you got budding landowners, there's quite a change.
I have a
I
question.
think it's gonna be more than just a little bit of amendment. I think before, the town, yeah, we approved the driveways, but, like you told me, but you got a budding landowner, if you're dumping water on their land, they don't like it. I think Act 250, better pay attention to them too.
All right, Katie.
I have a question about the first culvert that was placed to go into the ditch, that's our town ditch, that's feeding water from above the hill down through. That would be our benefit. And the second one, the second one was approved by Act 250 further up, which was designed to drain the driveway. Am I understanding that correctly? The ditch on the uphill side of the driveway?
The ditch on the upper side of the driveway is there's a rock ditch that goes to a culvert, and the culvert drains into a natural depression in the land. And there is between 12 and, 18 inches worth of stone there, plus at the bottom, a 3-foot, to me, it's overkill, but it completely negates the possibility that any water would exceed that catchment area and that drainage ditch. It is not possible. It's a theoretical claim that has no basis, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to clarify. So the water that is going through the culvert that was placed right next to the road is water coming from above your property, not
Well,
your property. Up the hill.
The primary flow of water going along the Sunset Lake Road culvert
Yes.
is coming from above and started up above
Right.
the area we're
Wherever
talking
the
about.
previous one is up the hill.
And then there was a ditch, a drainage ditch, when we had super saturated conditions. We had cut into the slope to get into, there's a 10-foot variation between the road and the base of the stone wall that runs between 15 and 18 feet from the road. When we cut into that ditch, because the ground was super saturated, there was water coming out of that. We said, oh, that's no good. So we cut a drainage ditch that's this deep, filled it with stone, and before filling it with stone, we put a 4-inch perforated pipe to collect anything coming down there, and that drains to the point just above the 18-inch road culvert. So there is
Which is your property,
no.
near your property.
No,
I think what Mike just said is that he placed the drainage ditch with a culvert, and instead of the water coming out into the town culvert, it now bypasses that and completely skips the culvert that they put in on the road.
wrong.
And shows
That's
up
not
on-
what I'm saying, John.
Excuse me, one at a time, please.
May I finish, or you're gonna interrupt me again? Okay, and it completely bypasses the culvert that they put in, where the design right here shows it coming down and going through their culvert, and now comes towards mine. It comes down to the area that was designed to drain one ditch. Now 2 ditches are coming into it, and my fear is it's gonna overload my culvert. And I don't know if I got an answer with my question on the first question, is that 250 was it? Are they in on this?
What do you,
One at a time, please. Let's all raise hands when we want to speak. That would be very helpful.
Okay,
Okay, are you,
I'm finished, yeah.
okay. Michael?
what John just said is wrong. What I just described was the south, when you're on Sunset Lake Road and you're looking up the driveway to the south, there was a cut into that bank, and we dug a ditch, we put in that perforated pipe, and we put loads and loads of coarse stone there, and it feeds to the south end of the culvert, of the town culvert. What John just said was not true. It feeds into that culvert that we had installed. And the amount of water coming in from that is just it's a fairly regular trickle or flow. I don't know how you want to characterize it. It's not a lot of water, but it's because of the supersaturated water above the bank. And that was the third element. Again, there's the road culvert, there's the higher culvert that drains into its own drainage ditch and catchment area, and that water does not exceed that area or go anywhere near John's property, which starts at least 80 feet beyond that. I haven't measured exactly. And then the third is that drainage ditch that allows the supersaturated soil to drain a little bit into the culvert that is the town. And it is the best way for the road drainage and the slope drainage to be managed. And anybody looking at that site with a rational engineering view would come to that conclusion. And as we described that to Chris Kinnick, he said, it sounds like you did the right thing. I just wish you'd asked us first. And I said, you're right, we should.
That's where I'm at this point, is that there's work being done that is not being given, there is work being done that needs an amended plan and that is required, and it's not being done that way. You're doing the work, then reporting it, but where's the amendments? Where's the written documentation so that we know what's happening is what's Act 250 approved?
What Chris has said is, keep going. It sounds like you're doing the right thing. Stay in touch with me. Thank you for being in such close communication.
You have written here that there is a requirement for amended plans showing necessary changes, and that seems to me, from reading this, that needs to be done before work is happening.
That's,
Because I don't see anything written from anybody in Act 250 or anywhere saying that it's approved. That's the problem.
may I respond?
Yes.
I will ask Chris to send you a note documenting what I've just said, that we will, the only thing in my 5-point plan that I didn't say speaks to your point, which is the timing of that amended plan. He says, get that amended plan done. And we are doing that as soon as we can.
But
He didn't say stop work. He said, you have done what you've done. It was the right decision, but it would have been good to have had our approval first. Keep going and make sure you do the following things. And the following things involve honoring, the various compliant conditions
okay.
in the stipulation.
I'm gonna let Gordon speak because it's spoken yet.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to give a little summation, and maybe why we're here is more of a global picture than whether a particular ditch is in the wrong place or not. I appreciate, first of all, when I quote people from the town, I want to simply say that Mr. Merle and Juanetta and Jay Wilson and the Planning Commission have been nothing but wonderful on this project. They've tried to remain fair and impartial, and they've done great things, and we appreciate them. So if I use their name in vain anywhere along the way, it's not meant as a criticism, but rather as a help. We started this journey almost 5 years ago when this project came forward, and after some wanting of starting this project, the town realized it needed to amend itself and set up the process by which they could have natural burials occur in our community, and that happened, and that's fine. And I might add that my wife and I are advocates for that type of burial. We both served on the hospice board, so we are in favor of a proper place like that being in our community, and have been from the start. What occurred was your planning commission, and again, they are a fine and wonderful dedicated group of people, did what they should do. They had a presentation before them. They approved for the allowance of a project to be built, which was great, because that then started us getting into the legal process, which allowed us to follow a chain which has gone on for the last 3 years. We've been in environmental court, both Mr. Walker and myself, with this applicant, and we have worked with the environmental court over the last 3 years. And one of the things that became apparent was that Act 250 needed to be involved. And I might add, if you go back in history, and you can document this in meeting notes, there was some concern that the Act 250 wasn't even applicable to this project. And that was repeatedly said, but of course it prevailed and Act 250 is involved. We worked very hard to get a good plan written with Act 250, and one that we're all successful for and that this town can live with. And we signed off with the environmental court after Act 250 approved anything. And one of the most significant things that Act 250 did was it said two things. One, there's an Exhibit 069, which is the site plan that's referred to. Build it according to 069 and you may proceed with your project. Number two, it said, take care of all of the necessary other things you need to do for state and local permits. And there's a number of property transfers that have to occur. There's an agreement with the land trust that has to occur. There's an amendment to the current use that has to occur. There's a lot of stuff that has to occur before this cemetery can turn itself on and call itself in business. We're just barely into the first days of the construction of the project, and we're already being exactly where Mr. Walker and I and others felt we would be. Oh, I'm going to build it, and oops, I got to go get permission now. And that is what we don't want to see. I don't want to see things going on anymore where we're playing catch up. I do construction. That's how I make my living. I'm an owner's representative. I represent towns. I do this every day. There are things called field decisions, ladies and gentlemen, and that happens every day. You're going to move that door and the door doesn't quite fit, so you make it a 28-inch door instead of a 30-inch door. That's one thing. But to move the door from there to there is another thing. And I think that's where we are with this culvert, is yes, and in commending Jay Wilson, it makes perfect sense that the major culvert of this is down next to the road. No problem. You call it back 250, you talk about it, you say that you'll send in the plans, they say build it there. That's what I hear them saying. What I don't hear them saying is what Mr. Walker's now referring to as, well, another 75 feet up the hill, you've put another culvert. You're sending water in a different direction. Oh, over here on the left, you didn't bring the driveway in level, but oh, now that we caught you, we're going to put it in level. Oh, over here on the left, we didn't put any check dams in, but oh, now that we caught you, we're going to put them in. I drove by on the second day of construction, and I've come up with 9 points that have been done wrong. I'm happy if half of those points are wrong. I'll give myself that. Gordon was being a jerk that day, and half of them weren't right. First of all, they're all right. I didn't dream any of them up. I drove down the road, I took a picture, they're all here, they're all documented. That's the way we are. Once that happened, oh, I guess we better call the state, backfill this thing. And that's what I'm trying to prepare our town for globally on this entire project. We're only 150 feet up the road. I haven't seen a single survey stake. I've seen impacts of the side impacts that you're not supposed to do. They're called the areas of delineation being violated. We now see a non-engineer telling us that water can flow in a certain way, and God, it's going to be there forever. So we're in a dilemma here. How do we go forward? So I thank you for saying that, but I want you to realize that I'm not coming forward with things that were dreamt up. I'm not a disgruntled neighbor. What I am is a person that is a little bit not wanting to have to be the enforcement agent on this, and by default have become the enforcement agent. And then when I'm not the enforcement agent, we sort of put it on poor Merrill, and Merrill's a good man and a wonderful man, but this is an Act 250 engineered project, and it's beyond many of all of our abilities to follow the bouncing ball. I'll sort of stop there. I do have a solution for you if you want it, but I don't know if we're in the solution form yet, but I just want you to know that I'm not here as a disgruntled neighbor. I'm here as a person who has spent 5 years watching this, 3 years in court, coming up with a decision that we signed an agreement with the town. The 3 signatories were the applicant, myself, and the town. And we're not 1 day into construction of this thing, and we're doing it any old way we want. And I do have some solutions if you'd like, but we're not there yet. And I could go on all night, but I won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
Characterizing the project as being off the cuff in the way that Gordon just did is doesn't give the right respect for a contractor, excavators who've done the job, been doing it for 50 years. And the fact that nobody caught the fundamental problem with the site plan, that the road ditch was 10 feet off the road instead of at the road itself. That's on all of us. And I know I should have caught it. If what you're saying, you were paying such attention to this, we all should have caught it. The fact that we didn't, and that we had floodwaters coming down, we had to deal with it. So we did what we did, and I keep saying that was our error. And to try and paint, as Gordon was saying, a global picture, or use a global brush to say, oh, we're just doing it every which way, is just not an accurate assessment. And I'll stand by what I said before. We made a mistake in not getting the prior approval, but every engineering decision we've been making is correct, And there's been no resistance on that perspective from the person who was in charge here, and that is the Compliance and Enforcement Officer, Chris Kinnick. And he says, keep going and keep me apprised. I really appreciate how you're doing that with your photographs and your narrative. The solution here, if you want a solution, is to get Chris to say, I'm not shutting this project down. I certainly have the capacity to do it, but as long as these guys keep working and they understand what it is they have to do, we'll keep going. And that's the nature of this. Gordon doesn't have to be the enforcement officer. We got one of them, and he works for Act 250. Act 250 is the arbiter in all of this. And they've been very clear with me about how to do this. And that's what I've been sharing with you.
Madam Chairman, just one follow-up, please.
Yes, Corbett?
I also have talked to Act 250, and my interpretation of their opinion of this project might be different.
My feeling from everything I've heard is that there needs to be an amended plan in place. It says here that it's required, and I don't see an amended plan from anything in writing. I don't have anything in writing from Stephanie Guile. I don't have anything in writing from Chris Kinnick as far as changes. I haven't seen anything. I just have a lot of he said, she said. I don't know about the rest of the board, but it seems to me that we need to have everything in writing, and we need to have an amended plan.
I would also like an engineer's name and the contractor's name
Yes,
sent to us, please.
John?
Perhaps this would be the last word, but I would have no problem with the project if it was following the site plan. But when it varies from it and I don't see any documentation, which is supposed to happen, I wonder why it can occur, why it can keep going on.
My recollection is when we voted to approve this, that it was to follow all of the points from the environmental court and everything that was written.
Exactly. The environmental court was no changes.
Gordon?
Madam Chairman, I do have a possible solution for you, which would take me out of it and everyone else out of it. In other construction projects I've done, what you do is you have an independent party that comes in, and the town, again, this is a major project due to the fact that we're going to be burying bodies that are going to be up there for in perpetuity, which is wonderful. And it's a great place to be, a beautiful view. What you might want to do, and a suggestion would be, is that, first of all, I think that you've given a curb cut permit. I think there still needs to be a permit that's the zoning permit, which says you may now go construct this project. I think there's 2 permits needed. One was given, which was the quote curb, we call it curb cut in Brattleboro, where I came from. It's driveway permit. I don't mean to be disrespectful, driveway permit. I think you need one that's for the actual structure. And I compare it to WW next door. They got a curb cut to curb, but then to build their building. Well, in this case, you get a curb cut to curb. And then, as Jay says, he's not going to look anything more than 10 feet up the road. That's not his purview. And he's right. What you do up there is on large projects that are complex, is the town would hire an independent engineer that could go out there on your behalf and do that. And you would put that as part of your zoning permit that you give, that the town will be hiring an independent engineer. And then none of you folks have to be out there interpreting it. They would be out there, and when there's a runoff of a rain, they take a look at that runoff. They do the proper counts with the proper machinery, and they say, yeah, you're right, that's not going to go anywhere. Fine, this is a great solution. The second thing I think you're going to need before this thing gets approved globally is you need your town attorney to do what I call it could be, I'm trying to think of the term, title search, if you will, but not a title search in the traditional way. There are so many other amendments that have to happen to that property up there that my fear is that someday we're going to walk in here and Merrill's going to have issued some permit and we're going to be burying bodies the next day. And that's another situation. So we need to, I think the town, for their own benefit, to keep having this be enforcement that goes back and forth. I humbly would suggest that you consider, and you take this into advisement, that you do what other large commercial projects are done, is you hire an engineer independent that represents the town that would go up and keep watching this and would report in. And number two, you have your town attorney do a full scrub of all the permits, and then at that point you would issue the ability to operate this facility. And if it were my project, I'd have no problem with that.
Yes, Michael?
The stipulation from Act 250 was very clear. It said, subject to all these conditions, the town of Newfane, I think it mentions the zoning administrator shall issue a permit. Now, they didn't say what kind of permit, but Merle, you can help me reconstruct the conversation that you and I had. But I was saying, okay, what do we need to get this permit? And you said, well, I can't say that everything is in compliance until the driveway is done. So let's build the driveway first. Was that correct?
Yeah.
So that's where we are now. We're building the driveway. We messed up by not being in full compliance with a faulty plan. We should have stopped it. We should have let the road flood out. We should have just stopped everything to have gotten that approval. By the book, that would have been the right thing to do. So we find ourselves in the position of having done something, we saved the road. So the next thing is to have Act 250 document that we are okay. You said sooner rather than later.
We don't have any documentation,
That's right. And what I was suggesting is that no one is going to ask Merle to do anything more until they've issued that documentation. At issue is whether you're saying, well, we shouldn't do anything until that amended plan is. I suggest that I send you either what Chris has already told me to say, keep going, but make sure you do the following things, or ask him to send you something specifically which says, I have instructed the applicant, me, to proceed along the following lines and keep working with the project. That has been done orally, and I will ask him to do that in writing to you so that you don't have to feel like the decision is on the select board or the town. Can we go without an amended plan, or just that the amended plan will follow, which is how I've understood it to be. That is what I think Chris Kinney has said, and I will ask him to put that in writing. Would that be helpful?
Well, that's what you had stated in your letter, is that they require an amended plan showing any necessary changes. So that seems to me that that needs to be done before anything else happens.
No.
That's kind of my interpretation.
Well, that's not what I intended when I wrote it. I would rewrite that to say, when you have when you can provide the amended plan to backfill where you are and keep going. I will rewrite the letter to say that, because that is my intention.
If I'm not mistaken, I wonder if the board feels the same way I do, that it needs to come from Act 250.
I speak of it.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
I'm gonna go back and I keep hearing about the whole water, probably the easiest, simplest thing was been left it on the side of the road, it should have been on. Gone back to the town and had to see about putting a bigger culvert down the road to accept the water coming down the down road and your project. The whole thing, I have a whole problem right here, because on Walker, and I've seen this 100 times where the water does go in pretty quick, next thing you know, you got a swamp. He might have some land, I don't know what his land's like or not, whatever, that's a little different. As far as I'm concerned.
It sounds like we need to wait for, we need an engineer to go out and correct the deficiencies and get an amended plan that is approved by Act 250. I mean, that's everything I'm hearing
That needs to be the first thing that's done
before work
Got a problem
continues.
with it? I wouldn't have a problem with it.
that needs to be emphasized.
Sorry, Mike, can you say that again?
I said, if John Walker had to come in and say, look, this is gonna come on my land, I mean, I don't know what kind of thing you got there that's gonna stop it, but if he had to come on and say, look, I got a problem with this, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't know what goes on, I don't know what's going on, so you got a property owner. Like I said, we still went through it on that, still, we moved the culvert. We got the culvert down on our own spot. And I know that state guy, if he signed that letter telling you go ahead and do that without seeing an engineer plan, he's putting him and the state at risk, I would think. Because John and him come back in and start screwing up his property, he could come back and sue everybody involved.
Yes, Michael?
This is a hypothetical situation we're talking about as opposed to a real one. The reality is this was done with extreme caution to deal with the water. I know John is doing whatever he can to make his opinions known. If getting a third-party engineer to confirm what I'm saying is necessary, maybe you should do that. The idea of stopping the project, we can get Chris Kinnick to say, I'm not asking anyone to stop the project. I'm saying, henceforth, make sure you're playing by the rules. And I'm saying, absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to do, and my feeling is I'm not speaking for the whole board, but from everything I heard, again, is that we need to have an amended plan that shows the changes before it can go forward, because it seems that it's not being followed by putting in extra culverts and not getting approval first.
All of that was done prior. All of the amending the plan right now is history, dealing with what we have. We're not asking for new
And if
things.
something comes up when you go forward that's not part of the existing plan, and
What
you don't
I've-
have an engineer that's gonna.
What I understood from Chris, and I can ask him to write you a letter on this regard. First of all, this is all about Act 250.
Exactly. Which
And so
requires a plan.
so let Act 250 be the enforcer, the arbiter, the person, the entity that says this is what we need. If you need to get an engineer to say this is not going to affect the abutting landowner, that is a concern that the town can have that's outside. You know, if Mike and John feel that's necessary, okay.
But even you state that in your letter, that you've been unsuccessful in reaching your engineer, Ron Bell, who came up with the original plan. So you're reaching out to another engineer to come on site, amend the existing site plan to
That's
correct deficiency, and ensure that the plan as amended meets Act 250 permit conditions and local requirements as per Jay's review. We don't have anything that has, and they said that they require an amended plan showing necessary changes. We
But-
have nothing.
The issue here is that when that amended plan needs to be done, there's nothing in what communications with Act 250 have said that it just says get that plan. It doesn't say do it now. It says before we sign off on the project for completion, which is what Merle needs in order to put his stamp on it, that the plan would be in place by then. That's what this has been about. And we said, yeah, do it as soon as you can, but that doesn't affect your work today. Just play by the rules going forward. That's the message, and it keeps coming back every time. He wrote me again this morning, thanking me for all of this, and let's keep this thing rolling.
Katie?
I'm hearing your eagerness to continue with the project, with the rest of the project as you have it currently planned, minus this part that's already been done that was not planned. But I think you need to refocus on getting your engineer on board ASAP and then informing all of us of that person's name and what they're doing for you as rapidly as possible, rather than pressing on continuing. You need to refocus. The engineer has to come first. That must be your priority.
It's not about refocusing, it's very much front and center focus for us to do it simultaneously. It's not like, because that's what Act 250 has asked for. I mean,
Has the culvert already been installed?
it was all installed in order to keep the road from flooding out.
Yeah, but that wasn't part of the plan, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, we're going on about the same goddamn thing all night here. I
Yep.
didn't get a motion that we withdraw the driveway permit until an engineer has that shown and it's been approved through the Act 250 and approved by the abutting landowner. We're gonna go on about this whole thing all night. That guy's going, I cannot believe they're telling me to go ahead and change the plan. And it's something just about like what Gordon said. I've worked on a lot of Act 250 jobs too. And most of the time I have to, when the engineer comes in and takes the center of my road, he sets the cuts, the grade, the slopes of the bank, the whole nine yards, and then I have to mark, I haven't been up there. Usually the first thing goes up to all my silt fence. I have to mark the perimeter of the cut on each side of it. And I know like Gordon said, you can see a lot of different violations that are wrong. But we're gonna just keep going on about this thing all freaking night. We've been talking about this for a while. Like I said, my biggest concern is right now is you got a budding landowner that bought that project that we've been working with you guys to try to get this thing through. All he's telling you right now, you don't want that water on his land. That's gonna take an engineer to come back in, check the water quality study, the water hydraulic part, you know, how much water is going over onto his land. Because if that's to run over there all the time from water, that could be a lot of water over a year period. And like I said, we keep going on about this whole damn thing all night long. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna take us withdrawing the permit. That's what I'm recommending.
Can you,
We pulled the driveway permit and our access permit until this is straightened out.
can you restate your motion, please, for Juanetta?
I'm making a motion, if it's gonna take to get this thing solved, that we withdraw the access permit until we see it done on a plan, according, and not just what this guy said, this is good. I wanna see where John's happy with the water going on his land as a budding land.
So you're
I'm
asking,
okay with everything.
So-
I'm okay with the plan you brought in the first time. You've already installed the culvert, it should have been part of that plan.
Juanetta has a question for you. Hold on, Juanetta.
so you're asking to withdraw the access until engineer amends the plan and is approved by Act 250, or just the landowner?
The Act 250, I mean, which is part of Act 250 is John and everybody above that land.
Okay,
You know, in other words, if you're putting proper water, I mean, before the water was going down one side. I said, well, they probably should have come to us and said, look, we got this section closed, and it should have been done with an engineer showing how much water is coming off that side of the road and how much coming down off our road instead of maybe a 18, 24 inch hole. I don't know what you got there. Maybe we needed a 36 inch culvert down there. Maybe with a catch basin and all this stuff that we've done, taking the water that come from your property and put it down the side of our town road into wherever it does go.
All right, I'm gonna ask,
I would just,
1 second, we have a motion on the floor.
thank you.
Is there a second to this motion?
I second the motion.
Further discussion, Katie?
If everything is good, like you believe it is, then it should be no problem for the engineer to come in there and okay it, and then you may proceed after it's all done, but we have to make sure that it's okay, because it's a change from the plan, the original plan, the approved plan. We have to know, before anything else is done, that needs to be your focus, that has to be your primary goal.
The engineer and Act 250, and we need
Yes,
to have
yes.
it in writing. Ann, do you have anything?
This is a thorny one, I have to agree. But I definitely think that we need the documentation and the approval from the Act 250 folks. Because we're in no position to evaluate a engineer's report. And without knowing that what has been done meets their standards and approval, there is the danger of a neighbor's property being damaged, and none of us want to see that. Or the town road damaged. So I think we just, as painful as it is for Mike, I think we do have to take a pause and make sure that that documentation is in place, not for bureaucratic reasons per se, but for safety's sake, to know that the engineering work that's being done is appropriate and sufficient. I don't know what an engineer would say. An engineer looking at it may well say, what you did is great, but you need to do the following 3 steps in addition. And unless we get that engineer's report, we'll never know. So that's where I come down on this.
Thank you. Michael?
We have to hire a new engineer because Ron Bell is out of commission. We fear for his health. That engineer is going to evaluate everything and say, this is how, from my professional perspective, I would proceed with the project. And then he would create the amended plan accordingly. We would get that plan approved by Act 250. If there are 2 issues here, what Mike is saying and what John is saying is that, well, there's danger to John's property, which is I will tell you, it is a non-issue. But if you need an independent assessment for that, that's not going to be our engineer that says that. Take Gordon's suggestion. You hire your own engineer to see whether or not that is an issue so that you won't second guess what I'm saying or what our engineer might be saying, because he'd be working for us. So I suggest that I get documentation.
Wait, Mike, wait 1 second.
That I get documentation from Chris Kinnick to you, which says, we're not saying stop the project. We're saying continue, but move in the direction in which yes, he's bound by certain bureaucratic requirements in his position, but he also recognizes the nature of this project and he recognizes the intention we have to do things right. So he says, I want to work with you here. I can always put the hammer down on you if I need to, and I'm not doing that because you are telling everything, our conversations, and I'm paraphrasing him, everything, our conversations and your documentation suggests to me that this is going along the way it should. Just in the future, get this right. I will ask him to document that to you so that you don't have to cancel the order, which he's not doing, or cancel the permit. At the end of the day, I'm on the same page as everyone else that Act 250 is going to have to sign off on this. And that's why I got to play by the rules. That's why I want to play by the rules. I want to do this right. And to say anything else is just not
And it
accurate.
sounds like you should follow what you said in your letter, reaching out to an engineer to come on site and amend the existing plan to correct the deficiency and ensure that the plan as amended meets Act 250 permit conditions. That's what you wrote. That's what we're asking.
It's about timing though, because what Act 250 has asked for is just do that in the course of time. Keep working on the project. And I assume that we'll have that in the next few weeks, but to stop the project in that process is not at all what he's asking for, and I can get him to document that.
Well, the motion right now on the table is that these things need to be done. That the work needs to stop until these things are done. That's the motion on the table.
And I hope you heard what I said.
but without anything from writing from Chris from Act 250,
But I can get that, is what I'm telling you.
great, that's part of what we're asking for.
But that's different from having the amended plan before you continue. That's a fundamental issue, so I asked other board members to see what I'm saying here. Act 250 is not saying stop the project, they're saying get this amended plan to us.
We don't have anything saying that to us from Act 250, we have you telling us. We don't have.
But that's why I'm saying I can get that to you rather than you're saying
Well,
making.
there's a motion on the table that we need to address, that we need to vote on. I'm gonna give one more chance to speak, John.
Am I hearing that we're gonna change the plans, but the work's gonna go on without a plan?
The motion is the permit is to stop, the work is to stop, right? The permit is to be,
The driveway permit.
the driveway permit is to be pulled, and that all of these things need to be done and approved by Act 250.
Okay,
Is that correct, Mike?
that answers my question pretty much, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anything
Yeah,
else?
I want to make sure this isn't an approach on John Walker's land that it's going to create a problem later. I know the guy said the culvert might have been the right thing, and then I don't want to just have Act 250 done that. I want to know that John's happy with the plan that they drawn up for this waterway going towards his land.
I's dotted, T's crossed.
Exactly.
Yeah, the motion was that the driveway access until engineer amends the plan and approved by Act 250 and the landowners.
Are we ready to vote?
But that doesn't deal with, unless you're talking about another amendment, of you're having an engineer to assess whether or not the abutting landowner is affected by this.
We can discuss that after.
Could I speak for a minute? I'm not ready to vote yet.
Okay, yes, Ann.
I just think that we need to do a little bit more research to understand what we can do. I assume that it is the role of Act 250 to make sure that the neighbors are not being negatively impacted by any actions that are taken. And I assume that Act 250 would not sign off on a plan if it had negative impacts. Because they certainly are doing this around everything with the gravel pit. So I would like to have the opportunity to talk to a few more people at the Act 250, to hear what they have to say, and to be able to reassess what our action should be. At the moment, we're having a conversation that's involving the neighbors and who have different feelings on the issue, but what we don't have, in my opinion, is an understanding of what the Act 250 people would say. And I understand that Mike is telling us what they have told him, but I do feel a need for some independent evaluation and research. And that's, I guess I'm making almost like a counter proposal that we take a couple of days, because I know that Mike is anxious to finish the project, but we're all anxious to make sure it's done correctly and to the best level, and that we do a little research and that we then reconvene, if necessary, in a special meeting to see what we decide to do.
In the meantime, would you halt work while we do research or let the work continue?
Mike, is all the work that's going on right now related to the driveway and the culvert, et cetera?
Are you asking this way?
Yes.
I have to leave town for a few days to do some other things. So work was not going to be happening this week anyway. However, I think what Ann has suggested makes a lot of sense, because if Act 250 can give documentation of where they stand, that should be the basis on which the select board would act, it seems to me. So I believe you could get that communication within a day or two.
So we still have a motion on the table from Mike,
And it's been seconded.
and it's been seconded by Katie.
And we have had lots of conversation.
I know we need to, I'm sorry, Angela, can I say one thing? I know we need to vote on it. I would like to request that the board not pass that motion. And instead, I would like to propose an alternative motion, whatever the process is when it, I'm just saying after it's voted down. The next motion, I would then put so people would understand why I'm saying to vote it down. Is to spend several days.
Mike can withdraw the motion if he feels to, and we can do another motion, or we can vote on this motion. Yes, sorry, Mike, hold on, Mike, I'm sorry, I interrupted Ann, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just requesting that the board vote down the current motion and that we take the next 5 days to do some research and make calls to the Act 250 people and get some greater clarity and corroboration on the current situation.
And that means no work to be done until we have that clarity.
And Mike says that the no work is going to be going on this week anyway because he's out of town.
Okay. All right, so we vote on Mike's motion.
I
That,
gotta want to say one more thing now, still.
okay, one more thing.
I mean, the whole thing is, like I said, what I heard some, that you keep on telling about this one guy, this enforcement guy, right? And then they're talking about, oh, maybe the town should hire our own engineer. We're not hiring no engineer. I've gone to enough evaluation. It's up to me to prove that I'm in the right. And I'm saying this is all right. Like I said, when this has been going on, you know, Gordon said the same thing, it's been going on 5 years. And, you know, and I wrote back on this thing, like, and all this thing, but everybody was happy the way it was designed. They had culverts coming down, one culvert I guess on top, I don't know what it was, down to the town road. And it's like, what is it, one that happened, you know, a couple days, whatever's been working up there. And all of a sudden now you've already put another culvert in. Before you should have put that culvert in, I don't care if you even went to the Act 250 on that, should have gone and asked John Walker if it's okay to access that water over towards his property. Just like I said, we just did the same damn thing over on Adams Hill. Before we went to install this culvert, we wanted to put it in where we thought it was gonna be the best, but we had to get permission from that landowner to put the water over on his land. And like I said, I don't care what, I mean, Act 250, the way I look at it, you should have never installed that other culvert until you went and talked to John Walker. And said, look, I think we're gonna need another culvert up here. It's gonna 75 or 100 feet up the hill. It's gonna access the water towards your property. And then you could have gone back and said, yeah, I talked to the landowner and everything else. And we had to fill it in just to keep the water from one. I mean, any water coming out of the road right now, if it washes out our road, that's your responsibility anyway. And I said the best thing would have been come back, down for a bigger culvert with your engineer and change that. But as far as the way I look at it, it's not more just one up and ask this guy to continue. You could have satisfied John Walker, too. Or I'm not part of it. It took 5 years to get you to this point. You put the road design in, everything was coming down the other side of the road. Now you're gone halfway up the hill, wherever it is, you're putting it over on the other side.
That's not
what I'm
accurate.
saying. If it's one way to solve this thing is we pull the access permit, that cuts you off right there anyway, until we get it all straightened out, and then we get to get back to permit. I'm all done.
Last comment, we have to vote on this motion.
That
Yes.
statement that Mike made was not accurate. Moving all the water from one side of the road to the other is just not true.
I didn't say all the water. I said you created another spot. Before you installed that culvert, you should have went and talked to the guy that the water is headed towards his land.
It does not affect
I didn't
his
tell the water.
land.
I
It
said
doesn't.
you created another culvert. to put additional drainage ditch in from the one, I don't know how many culverts you got on that plan, I can't even remember. But you've added one to it that wasn't there, that's a change on that plan. Like I said, if anything, I'd have gone back to the town and said, look, maybe we ought to put a bigger culvert at your road and create some, fix the ditch on the side, and then the water where it drains into wherever down there.
It's all hypothetical, it's just not the case.
Like I said, we can go back and forth all day, you guys want to prove it the way I'm talking, if you want to do it the other way, but I want to make sure John's going to be satisfied before any of this goes further.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to withdraw the access permit for the road and have an amended plan done by the engineer that's approved by Act 250 and if the landowner's happy. Mike made the motion, Katie seconded. Are we ready to vote on this motion?
Okay?
All those in favor say aye.
Alright,
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, now we have a tie.
No, I'm aye for yay.
You're aye for,
Yay.
so,
Aye for yay.
for Mike's motion.
Yes.
3-1.
3,
I'm
2,
for yay.
3, 2, 1.
Motion passed.
Okay. So that means we need to have the amended plan approved by the engineer and approved by Act 250 and John Walker. So, or the abutting landowners.
yeah,
And then come back to the board with the amended plan.
Thank you for your time on this tonight, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, John. I mean, Michael, sorry.
This runs afoul of 5 years of work, the stipulation that Gordon signed off on, the previous agreement that the Walker signed off on. And it basically breaks the goodwill that we had, because by basically giving John Walker the chance to cancel everything, then it's sort of going back to ground zero.
Well, we're
The
looking,
moment that you changed the plan, you voided what you had done. We're going to make sure that it's back on track before proceeding and reissuing.
That may be your position, but if you're saying John Walker has to approve whatever we do, he could say, I'm not gonna approve anything.
it should, we're.
Is there any way to
When you
obviate?
get the amended plan to show it to the abutting landowners.
well, it's just like us with our gravel bank, how many budding landowners we dealing with on our permit for our gravel pit? We gotta make sure they're all satisfied, or don't go further. That's all I'm saying is, I mean, it doesn't matter, we voted on it, so let's move on. So,
Yes.
I signed off the agreement because of a right-of-way issue, not because of what Michael just described. It was a right-of-way issue where he was not gonna even put an access in, he was gonna use a right-of-way that he thought he had over my property to access his new cemetery. And that's why I signed off, because we beat that back. He did not win that, and he decided to put in the access permit, which is what we're talking about right now.
Okay, so what we will look forward to seeing in the future is the amended site plan that's approved by Act 250. So we will look forward to seeing that. And I'm going to close this part out, and we're going to move on to scheduled members of the public, which we have now. Thank you, good
Good
evening.
night.
Thank you.
Unscheduled members of the public? Anyone? Yes.
I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right now, okay? I feel that there has been assertions made or questions raised that have taken this whole process in another direction. the tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees that we have had to bear, that this nonprofit has had to bear because of what was happening here, that cycle is continuing. All I was asking for was for Act 250 to weigh in and say exactly what I said. Madam Chair, you took my absence of not having a frame of reference for time as being, oh, we should stop. But that's completely, you don't even give them a chance to weigh in to say, we like this project, we like what you are doing, and for the town to now shut it down until one landowner can say, no, I don't approve of this amendment.
We're not
which
shutting
is
it
what
down
you just
because of
approved.
one landowner. We are asking for you to give the amended plan that's approved by Act 250. You didn't give us any documentation saying.
You didn't ask for it in advance. I had no idea this was coming. The amendment said approval by Act 250 and the abutting landowner. That's what I'm saying. By putting that language in there, you basically said, okay, it's up to you to sign off on whatever goes on.
That was the motion that was made by.
And I'm saying this is a subversion of a process, and I'm really disappointed. Not for the project or the hundreds of people who were affected by this, but by the lack of discernment going into where we are. You could have said, following what Ann was suggesting, give us some time to see whether what this Mike is saying is true. If Chris Kinnick will say, I'm okay with this process going forward, and if having an engineer saying, there's no way that you're going to get a rush of water that's going to affect this property owner, that's a hypothetical argument that has no basis in reality, yet it's driven this conversation because the people haven't been out to see the site to evaluate that for themselves. And so what has happened is it drags the thing on. It's just very disheartening.
Mike
And I
Fitzpatrick
think there's a
wanted to-
miscarriage here.
Mike Fitzpatrick wanted to respond.
I
Mike?
said, for me, yeah, you go on my side up there. Probably the best thing would have been to dump that damn culvert back up. Let it gone where it's supposed to go. I mean, like I said, you had a problem down below, you put the bigger culvert in. But my recommendation, I'd get a hold of Ron Bell. And if you want, I'll even try calling him for you.
I wish you would. We haven't been able to reach him.
I usually can get a hold of him whenever I call, so I know he does avoid some people, but every time I call, he seems to answer.
He was talking to Woody, who's our contractor, a couple of weeks ago, when I said, we've got to work out some issues with the site plan. I think he just pulled back and said, I just don't want to deal with any of this. I don't know what better to do.
I don't know who quit the job or not, but I'm just saying that you're better off staying with the same engineer, because they're going to start a whole process. And with a whole new engineer, you've been better off to go to the overtell up there out of there.
I just wish that we could, how can we work together on this to make this happen? It's a nonprofit. Nobody's making any money but the lawyers at
We
this
are, we
point.
just need to have the amended site plan. No, it's
Like I said, if you put the culvert back out, you don't need to amend the plan, you're still following the plan. I never put the damn culvert in anyways without talking to the other guy. I mean, that guy, like I said, I did not believe that guy liked his video, but his liable saying it's okay to put
It
water.
does not affect John Walker's land. I promise you that.
Well,
I would stake my, whatever I have in my life on that assertion.
if you wanna call me tomorrow, I'll try Ron and stuff. I'll try him tomorrow myself. I'll see if I can get a hold of the boy and add it to you straight to this.
Thank you, Mike. All right, so you'll all be in touch tomorrow. All right,
I'm
New
still
business.
unclear as to what I'm supposed to do at this point.
Find an engineer. That's your first thing.
But that's not what
I get a
Mike
hold
just
of
said.
it's already done.
Mike Fitzpatrick said he would talk to you tomorrow and try and get a hold of your engineer, Ron Bell.
How can I track you down, Mike? What's the best way to do that?
Juanetta can give you his phone number tomorrow.
Yeah.
She could pass along his cell phone number to you tomorrow via email or give you a call.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, so new business, we need to vote on the proposed bylaw change. And that's this. Were there any changes that needed to be made to this? by anyone?
Not that I know of.
Any comments from you, Alyssa? Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Hi, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, just here if there was any questions or anything, just hoping to wrap it up, yeah.
I don't think so. I think it went really well. So is there a motion to approve the proposed bylaw change?
I make such a motion.
Anne made the motion. Mike, would you like to start? Great. And will everyone stop in when they can to sign it, or do you just need the chair to sign? Do you need the whole board to sign it?
It's the whole board.
The whole board? So when you get a chance, please stop in and sign.
I'll be in next week, I'll do it.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the proposed bylaw change, say aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it. Great. And we'll have one Etta send you a copy.
Of the sign.
Yeah, sure, yeah, scan copy, that would be great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys, and any questions you have as you go forward, let me know. I'm here, and John Brooker Campbell as well, so we'll help Merle along.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Have
And
a good evening.
What's that?
I just said have a good evening.
thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
Okay,
Bye, Alexa.
bye.
And old business, Jeff's not here to talk about beautification. Oh, sorry, Kate. Bye. Oh, yes, thank you. The planning
I just
commission.
want to say one thing quickly from the planning commission, which is that we have the bylaw modernization grant meeting, the first one at our next meeting on the 28th, and I want to make sure you all know about that. We don't have an agenda yet from the WRC, but I will let you know. So I know you're moving on, but I just wanted to make sure you.
September 28th at 6.
Yes, and we'll get that all out, but.
Bylaw grant
It's
modernization.
the bylaw modernization grant. Is that, I'm sorry, which committee is this? This is the planning commission.
Planning
So
commission.
this is just here.
Yes, thank you.
And I don't have the agenda, from them, we'll get it, hopefully we'll get it, I can't promise you, it'll depend on them, but we'll aim to get that out a few days ahead. I usually kind of let people know, remind them Wednesday that we're meeting on Thursday, but if we can, we'll put it out a little earlier.
Thank you.
And obviously it'll be warned and everything, so.
And we appreciate all your hard work. You guys did a good job. Thank you so much. All right, so now to old business. Jeff's not here to talk about town beautification, so we will table that till the next time. Anne, do we have anything on the FEMA buyout of the South Newfane Store?
No, no updates at this time.
Any updates on ARPA?
No.
Updates on personnel policy changes and recommendations?
Still waiting.
Can we send an email and?
Today, let's see. Yeah,
Okay.
I got your message. I'm gonna touch base again, and I apologize.
We will get there.
Do you want to keep these on as old business, or do you want to just let me know when we add them to the agenda as we need to discuss them?
I think we can keep them on because then we don't ever really know when we're going to get an update, so keeping them on is fine. Do we have any correspondence?
No.
Is there anything else the board would like to discuss? Okay, well with that, we are going to move into pay orders. I'd like to thank everyone for being here this evening. Thank you, Mel, for researching and sending us updates on the projects, and thank you to the Planning Commission and all of our groups and everybody that does a great job for the town.
Do we need to pass a motion for you and Katie to do pay orders?
Yes, is there a motion for Katie and I to do pay orders?
I make
I
a
make
motion.
a motion.
Mike, second?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All those in favor say aye.
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 Ayes have it.
Can we even vote?
We did the last time. Okay, so stay safe out there, everyone, and have a good evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Good night.